Hi, welcome to SBR TV. I'm Peter Loshak. Right now we're going to do our football openers call with John Ryan, professional handicapper, and SBR contributor John Ryan, where we will look at the opening lines for NFL and college football. John, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me again, Peter.
Okay, let's start out with the NFL lines. There's some definitely very interesting lines as a result of some of the results from Week 2. The first one I want to ask you about is Saints over Chicago. A lot of people were expecting that Chicago might be a good bet against Falcons first week, but Chicago won. Jay Cutler looked pretty good. Saints, of course, coming off that huge game against the Packers. Now they're about a 7-point favorite at home. Some places you can get 6.5, and one of the most famous posters on SBR, Brock Landers, says he loves the Bears at +7, and that strikes a lot of people as possibly a likely fade betting and to bet on the Saints. What do you think about that line?
Well, it is a surprising line, no doubt. I didn't think that it would come out nearly this high. I was fortunate enough to have Chicago, and I was very surprised at how well they played. I expected to cover I expected them to win against Atlanta, but I didn't expect them to dominate the way they did. The line of scrimmage was well played on both sides of the ball. New Orleans coming off that tough loss at Green Bay. They've had a long week, though, to prepare, so I think that's why the line's so high.
I mean, I actually saw this line. I thought that the Saints were a pretty good bet, precisely because, there's fundamental problems with Chicago. And, all right, so they came out, week 1 and played well. But they still have the sort of fundamental problems that they always have. Jay Cutler is always, prone for a letdown. And then the Saints, again, they were against, Green Bay, who looked awesome. So they had a tough loss. Now they've had a long time to regroup. And I was thinking that they might come out and just have a solid advantage here, and that Saints -7 or even better 6.5 might be a good bet. But you were expecting a lower line?
I was expecting a lower line, and I'll clarify what I'm saying here. My 18 years of doing this, I would have expected this line to be maybe 5.
Okay.
Okay. Now that it's come out at 8, to me, in my experience, that's telling me that the bet may be on the Saints.
Right. Well, that's my preliminary.
So my lean is to the Saints already.
That's definitely my preliminary opinion, and Brock Landers loves the Bears at +7. Let's talk about another game that's a pretty interesting line. Atlanta as a very small home dog against Philadelphia. Now, Atlanta, a lot of people were expecting, again, Atlanta to get a good win and cover over the Bears, but that didn't happen. And then you got Philadelphia, where people aren't quite sure how awesome this team might be. On SBR, a lot of people are saying that, Philadelphia is going to start dominating, and pretty soon they're going to be a 2-touchdown favorite every week. So if that's the case, then getting them, as almost a pick 'em, even though it's on the road against Atlanta, is a great bet. What do you take? What's your take on this game?
Two things. In the NFL, we use that adage, not for long.
Right.
And as bad as Atlanta looked last week, they could look just as good this week.
Sure.
They're clearly have to win this game and defend their home turf against the Eagles. The other thing I noticed in the Eagles game, this is my second point, is Michael Vick's not going to survive 16 weeks getting hit as hard as he got hit in that game against the Rams.
Right.
And the Rams played pretty miserable defense, but they did get some pretty good licks on them. Now, with that said, I think Atlanta's defense is far better. And as week after week after week goes on, Michael Vick's not the type of quarterback that's going to be able to sustain those type of hits.
And then what do you make of the Pittsburgh line? Pittsburgh, got shellacked by Baltimore. They don't usually get beaten by them. Usually play close games. And now they're 14.5-point favorites at home against Seattle. Some people on the forum are saying this line is too big and that Seattle is a good bet here. What do you think?
I don't have any opinion yet, but again, the line is much, much higher than I thought. I thought Pittsburgh would be 9 or 10. Granted, Seattle did not play well against the 49ers. Their special teams was, I don't know what that was, with allowing 2 run backs for touchdowns. It was the first time in 49er history that they had a punt return and a kickoff return, and it was by the same guy. It wasn't even 2 separate players. So I think Seattle is, they're not even good enough to be called a work in progress. So with the Steelers getting shellacked last week, they might have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, so 14 might be about the right number.
Tennessee, they're a home dog getting 6 against Baltimore. Baltimore, of course, just came off that shellacking of Pittsburgh that we were just talking about. Do you think Baltimore's in a letdown spot? And some people were saying that on the experts roundtable that Tennessee would be a great bet against Jacksonville, and of course they didn't win or cover. What do you think about them here, though?
Well, the Baltimore game was a domination. No matter how you you look at the film or you look at the replay, Baltimore created the turnovers. They forced Roethlisberger into mistakes. They forced the offensive line into missed assignments. They completely missed blitz assignments, and that wasn't just because of a bad game and being flat from the Super Bowl last year. That was Baltimore playing at a very high level. And I would expect teams that play at a high level, that carries over for several weeks until they do have that letdown. So I think Baltimore's 1-0. They want to make sure they go 2-0. And I can see why this spread opened at 4 and has already gone to 6. So
Okay.
in this particular case, maybe the public is right.
Okay.